Hallo, wunderschönen guten Abend. Wunderschönen guten Abend an alle. Mein Name ist Disnay López. Ich bin Sängerin aus Kuba. Hi. Hi an alle. Trotz Regen, wir haben alle hierher geschafft. Also, wir fangen gleich an mit ein wunderschönes Lied. Und ja, ich singe jetzt 3 Songs für euch. Dieser Song heißt Creme Caramel.
Cansada de buscar que el amor verdadero a mi vida podría llegar. Yo a mí me dije, oye, ya no voy a esperar. No, 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 ay, a que aparezca ese perfecto que me va a amar, me va a amar, me va a amar. Y de pronto ahí estabas tú, con tu risa, con tu luz. Y de pronto ahí estabas, con tu mirada, y te entregabas tú de crema y caramel. Es tu amor para mí. Le digo adiós al dolor y al sufrir. De crema y caramel, tu sabor para mí. Le digo adiós al dolor y al sufrir, y al sufrir, y al sufrir. Yeah.
Señores, meine Muttersprache ist Spanisch, mein Englisch ist nicht so very good looking, aber trotzdem, ich glaube, alle verstehen ein bisschen Deutsch hier.
Llegaste y me amaste, tal como soy, como soy. Tú nunca intentaste cambiarme, tomaste lo que doy, lo que doy, lo que doy. Y ahora me encuentro.
Oye, voz sin palma.
Vamos. Como me miras, me tocas, me hablas, estoy loca por ti, loca, loca por ti. Hey. No, 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 te créeme. Es tu amor para mí. Le digo adiós al dolor y al sufrir. De crema y caramel, tu sabor para mí. Le digo adiós al dolor y al sufrir, y al sufrir, y al sufrir. Yeah.
Oye, mein Name ist Disnay López und wir machen weiter. Muchas gracias, vielen Dank. Ich versuche ein bisschen ranzukommen. Ich mag die Gesichter zu sehen. Ja, also, wie gesagt, ich bin Afro-Latina und ich freue mich so, heute hier zu sein in diesem wunderbaren Event. Danke für die Einladung, danke an alle, die hier heute arbeiten. Und heute wird richtig spannend, wird ein großartiges Event für euch, also bleibt bis zum Ende. Wir machen gleich weiter mit einem Song, die heißt Dulce como la naranja. Okej, das ist ein bisschen Reggaeton, das haben wir ein bisschen von den Afro mitgenommen und haben wir in die Latino-Richtung geschoben. Hay amores que son complicados, de esos que hoy le dices te odio y mañana te amo, de esos que traes clavaditos en el alma metido en tu pecho, de esos que te explota la cabeza de solo pensar en eso. Señores, ¿para qué buscar perfección si tú... Oye, ¿dónde están las palmas? ¡Vamos! Si no hay nada mejor que ser seres imperfectos. Tú a tu manera, yo a la mía, incondicional. Genau. Ey. Y es que cuando estamos juntos no hace falta más. Tú eres ácido como el limón, dulce como la nara. Tienes todo tú el sazón, que a mi canita le falta. Tú eres ácido como el limón, dulce como la nara. Oye. Tienes todo tú el sazón, que a mi cuerpito le falta. Y mira, dice así. Te quiero amar como eres y que tú me ames así. Y que en las buenas y malas juntos estemos aquí. Wir müssen alle zusammenhalten. Wir müssen das Leben leben. Also, live your life. Vamos. Ey. Ácido como el limón, dulce como la naranja. Y tienes todo tú el sazón, que a mi canita le falta. Tú eres ácido como el limón, dulce como la naranja. Tienes todo tú el sazón, que a mi canita le falta. Mira, aquí hay que entender que en esta vida la vamos, no siempre encuentras fácil la comida. Hey. A veces comes bien y a veces mal. A veces súper bien o regular. Vamos todo el mundo. Tu amor me da lo que yo quiero, un poco fuerte cuando quiero. Me haces el amor y no me dejas otra opción, amor, que querer tus rejas. Pero me libero cuando quiero, porque puedo, porque no me domina el deseo. Genau, du eres bueno y so viele hübsche Mädels hier heute. Was sind die Mädels hier? Eso. Und was sind die Männer? Was sind die Männer? Ácido como el limón, eso es. Dulce como la naranja y tienes todo tú el sazón, que a mi canita le falta. Tú eres ácido como el limón, dulce como la naranja. Tienes todo tú el sazón, que a mi canita le falta. Ácido como el limón. Genau. Ácido como el limón, dulce como la naranja. Tú eres ácido como el... Leute, das ist so, das Leben ist voller Rätsel. Manchmal haben wir jemanden neben uns und wir sind nicht perfekt, aber zusammen gehören wir trotzdem. Also ein Applaus für euch und vielen Dank fürs Kommen. Da kommt meine dritte Song. Da kommt meine dritte Song und dann kann man von diesem wunderbaren Abend beim Lesen genießen. Leute, wir singen jetzt, also ich singe jetzt ein Lied und der heißt Easy on Me und ich habe eine Salsa-Version gemacht. Also ich hoffe, euch gefällt. There ain't no gold in this river that I've been washing my hands in forever. I know there is hope in these waters, but I can't bring myself to swim when I am Bis zum nächsten Mal. Meine lieben Leute, alle meine Musik ist in YouTube. Disnay López, such mich. Ay, jetzt kann ich euch sehen. Tschüss. Hola, mi amor.
Wow, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. What a very cheerful audience. My name is Alexandra Antwi-Boasiako. Not only do I have the honor to host this amazing evening, no, I've also been appointed to be the literature ambassador of African books. And I felt like, of the African... When I was first asked, do you want to be the African Book Festival ambassador? Yes. I was naturally raised by my parents, ambassador, titles. First say yes. Ask later what you have to do. Then I said African literature. What's my relation to literature? Let me think. The title of this year's festival, it is Yesterday. Yesterday, I loved reading books. I liked it very much. I think when I was in 6th grade, I entered the reading competition. It was so exciting. And then I won. That was my first. But then yet my imagination has not reached that far that one day I shall become the African Book Festival ambassador. No, not at all. Because the books that I read is like, I knew like from the Psalms, a lot of books, but they were all white. They never looked like me. So my story was like, oh, I want to be like Katya, the ballet dancer, which obviously did not work out quite. But then I read all these books, and then one day I visited London. And then I had my first encounter. I saw this book, Half of a Yellow Sun of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And I was like, oh, wow. Wow. Not only a black person, an African person from West Africa, Nigeria. Let me buy this book. And that was a game changer. It changed my reality, my perspective so badly. And I felt like, who can I talk to this about? So I bought this book again to give it to a friend so that he will read it, so that I have someone to talk to about. This was back then. And now, today, I met you two. You created a festival where I finally met my people. This is the very first time. When I first came to your festival and I saw all these great writers, I thought, wow, there are more. There is so much more. And now I've finally found my people. So this is what you have done for me. First, so with all these great writers I've known now, like, not only do I buy books and give it to my friends, now I can talk about their stories. And it is not only African literature. Oh, no. Now I talk about, oh, I read this crime story. It was crazy. And I read this juicy love story book. And it was very, very, very juicy. And it's like, there was so much diversity. It's not only Africa. What does it mean? So now I feel like, thank you. I'll keep on spreading the word. I'll keep on being an ambassador. But I need help. It's a great mission, and I want you all to be part of it. I want you, from today on, tell everybody about this great festival. They should come, read, enjoy, get to know people. So herewith, I'd like to open this amazing festival. Thank you so much. We have a little word of greeting by our patroness and Minister of State for Culture and Media, Claudia Roth. Here's her video message to all of you.
die Welt. Sie schaut endlich auf die Literatur Afrikas und der afrikanischen Diaspora. Das liegt am Literaturnobelpreis für Abdul Razak Gurna im vergangenen Jahr. Das liegt sicher auch am Friedenspreis des deutschen Buchhandels für Tsitsi Dangarembga. Das liegt aber auch am African Book Festival, das der afrikanischen Literatur Jahr für Jahr eine herausragende Bühne in Berlin bietet. Es strahlt weit, weit über die Grenzen Berlins und Deutschlands hinweg. Und das ist wunderbar, das ist großartig und das ist sehr, sehr wichtig. Afrikanische Autorinnen und Autoren erweitern unsere Perspektiven, bereichern uns um Geschichten und Erzählstile. Sie laden ein zum Gespräch, zur Diskussion, zum Austausch, zum Nachdenken, zum Reflektieren. Die Literatur, sie überwindet Grenzen. Sie spiegelt die wichtigen Themen und Debatten unserer Zeit. Dieses Festival beweist das einmal mehr. Und es hilft dabei, dass die Menschen in Deutschland und Europa ihren Blick auf Afrika richten. Es hilft dabei, eine engere Partnerschaft zwischen Deutschland, zwischen Europa und Afrika aufzubauen, die geprägt ist von Dialog, von Kooperation, von Augenhöhe, gleicher Augenhöhe. Das African Book Festival ist jetzt schon seit 4 Jahren Plattform für afrikanische Literatur und ihre Themen. Das Festival leistet damit einen großen und wichtigen Beitrag zur literarischen Vielfalt in Deutschland. Ich habe deshalb auch mit großer Freude die Schirmfrauschaft für das African Book Festival 2022 übernommen. Danke an die Macherinnen und Macher für ihren Einsatz für die afrikanische Literatur. Den BesucherInnen des African Book Festivals 2022 wünsche ich viele spannende Gespräche über interessante neue Literatur, die uns miteinander verbindet, die uns voneinander lernen lässt. Ich freue mich auf viele weitere PreisträgerInnen aus Afrika. Vielleicht sind ja auch in diesem Jahr bereits einige davon dabei.
Yes, thank you. Yes, madam, thank you very much. I hope somebody can pass on this message to her the next time you speak to her. Great. Would you like me to translate it? Or is it okay? At the end of the day, she says it was it's very, very powerful. It is important. African literature can conquer the world. She didn't use these exact words, but technically, this is ultimately what it will end up to. This is the very short story. Please, if you feel free, you want a more detailed version, you can always reach out to InterKontinental at www.com. Great. So now, since I've introduced myself so greatly as ambassador of literature, I still like to share this stage. I am not that kind of person who likes to take the ambassadorship for myself. Therefore, I'm very, very, very honored to present to you His Excellency, Ambassador Phumelele Stone Sizani. Welcome on stage. Yes, please bear with us. This stage is a very special one. We want people to actually enjoy the walk, savor it. And that is why we didn't do this kind of short walks that you usually know from other shows. His Excellency, are you on your way? Welcome. I have a quick question. The last time we met, it was technically in your house at the embassy. Did I pronounce your name right? It's okay. All right. He wants to say it was perfect.
Dear Festival Director of the annual African Book Festival, Ms. Stephanie Hesch-Brunner, is still okay?
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, that's better. This one is better. Dear Festival Director of the annual African Book Festival, Ms. Stephanie Hesch-Brunner. Dear Ms. Margaret Busby, or Busby. Dear Curator Lidudumalingani, but today Lidudumalingani. Fellow Excellencies, Ambassadors, dear guest writers, directors, and more than 70 volunteers who make this festival possible. Honorable guests, good evening. I wish to welcome all of you at this 4th edition of the African Book Festival in Berlin, presented by InterKontinental EV. I wish to thank the festival director, Ms. Stephanie Hesch-Brunner, of the InterKontinental EV, and her colleagues for organizing this annual African Book Festival and for the honor given to me to address this auspicious occasion. InterKontinental EV has become the important promoter of African writers and literature in the German-speaking literacy scene. Through books and stories, the association aims at creating a continent and its people, contributing to work against prejudices, stereotypes, inequalities, neo-colonial structures, and ultimately racism and discrimination. The aim of this festival is to promote literature from Africa and its global diaspora in Germany. The first festival took place in 2018 and has become a popular annual event. Unfortunately, the festival could not take place in 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic. I would like to quote the patron of the African Book Festival 2022, the State Minister of Culture and Media, Ms. Claudia Roth, when she says, "Books let us immerse ourselves in the minds of others like no other medium. African authors bring their experiences to the African Book Festival and thus offer the very special occasion for exchange," close quote. According to the curator of this year's program, the South African award-winning author, the filmmaker, and photographer, Lidudumalingani Berlin. Writing is a solitary pursuit, but no writer sits alone at his or her desk and writes. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, the theme for the 2022 edition of the African Book Festival, Berlin, explores the connections between writers, the way older writers hold the hand of the young writers when they write, and how, in turn, they too hold the hand of writers coming after them, close quotes, to demonstrate the writing is not a solitary pursuit. No other African country made headlines as often during the COVID pandemic as South Africa. In an attempt to counter the questionable narrative of the so-called continent in crisis, this year's African Book Festival will focus on the South African literature and culture and bring together the stars of the African contemporary literature under the theme Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow. When I'm looking through the program for this year's festival, I'm very happy and honored to see the participation by various South African writers, like the following. There's Fred Khumalo, there's Nick Mhlongo, there's Mphuthumi Ntabeni, there's Maneo Mahale, there's Atembile Musala, there's Lerato Mkhwatle, Cynthia Jele, Sanelisiwe Nyaba, Nomonde Buthelezi, Adelaide Chupido, Bongani Kona, Buhle Ngaba, Rosekeitswe Manenze, and Sine Buthelezi. I would like to wish all participants from South Africa and all other African countries and Germany every best of this weekend's festival program. Enjoy the rest of the African Book Festival 2022 in Berlin this weekend. I thank you.
Thank you. My name wasn't among, but it felt so powerful. So no, there was so much pride. You were cheering for yourselves and you've done well. So therefore, once again, thank you so much for making all the way from South Africa here to Berlin. It's an honor and it's a privilege. And for this privilege to have you all here, we have two wonderful women to thank for. I would like to call them on stage. Are you ready? If not, no, please. Welcome Carla Kutzner and Stephanie Hilsbrunner. They are the founders. The founders of InterKontinental, the publishing house, the foundation, the bookstore, the African Book Festival, Berlin. Do you want to take the third microphone there?
Hello.
Hi there, welcome. So, when we are all here, this is part of what you've achieved. When I come to Sonntagsstraße and I see your shop, this is again what you have achieved. When I see all the books that have been launched, for instance, like Black Ass, for instance, a lot of them, then I see this is again what you have achieved. You don't stop. For some people, it's enough to have a bookshop to carry on with their friends. For some people, it's enough to just do a festival after they are tired and there's no sequel. For some, it is enough, but for you, it is not.
That's right.
The question is, what drives you? What are your drivers?
Thanks, Alexandra. Thank you so much. And may I answer first?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I cannot dance.
I just
with a
sit
cable
there,
here.
first row, and I'm just so happy. Like, you just make me all so happy. I just think, yeah, we are very passionate about what we do. But this festival, the bookstore that you mentioned, is one of the places where when people come in, they have a certain question often. What shall I read next? And there was one person that came in once and she asked me, I'm currently going through a hard time in my life, there's a breakup going on and all that, what shall I read? And then we went through all the shelves and we found exactly that book for her. She came back later, and we have that often, that people come back later and then they say, you people, like, you made me happy, you know? Thank you for that book. It changed my life. And it refers to what you said earlier. There was a book that you read, it changed your life. And I think that's the power that books can actually bring across. And that's why we're all here. And I think that's the spirit.
Nevertheless, it is a very long way, a lot of obstacles that you face for that particular moment. It's like things go wrong. You plan a festival, you book a room, you book a venue. Oh, suddenly government decides once to decide and act on it immediately. This is not how it happens in Germany. We decide on something, then we think how we're going to do it, and then maybe after a year we finally execute it. But not for the African Book Festival. I'm very surprised. How does it feel when you take all your sweat, your work, your private time, create something, plan, organize, set something, pay for it, and then, boom, boom, things go wrong again? What keeps you motivated? Why don't you just, I would have set up my paper and said, okay, then let's just stop.
I think stopping is not an option at all. It's also the driving force of our work. How does it feel? It feels like a punch in the and I think it's but it's also something that every festival organizers or everyone that already has done the work we have done so far has experienced. So as we say, stopping is not an option. We find solutions. We have lovely people around us who support us. And they have been supporting us for the last 5 years, and this is what keeps us going.
And also, the ambassador has mentioned the 70 volunteers this year, and it's just amazing for us to see how this festival is growing every year that we're doing it. And I think what you've traveled the globe literally, and you pointed this out as well, and we are very grateful for that. But I also want to point out how many people actually work behind the scenes. And when, for example, 3 days ago, we heard that we lost our venue, it is closed. People pulled together immediately, and the city was, on the phone. Who has space? Who can own us? You host us, So these kind of, not own us yet. Not yet. Host us, sorry, So, and immediately in a few hours, it was done. And then everyone went to work. And it was a night shift. But again, I like this kind of passion. And I think that's only in Berlin you can make this happen. And that's how, the vibe of this festival lives.
Maybe it's not only in Berlin. But it is also maybe because of you two individuals who basically shine out why it is worth to do this work, why people said, oh, they need help, let's help them, because what they're doing is important. So it is also credit really to your passion. Your passion shines out and it motivates others to be part of this. So therefore, I would like you always take a moment and remember what you've done and what you've achieved. Thank you for that. That's good. So, speaking of achievements, ready yourself, please. Speaking of achievements, one thing that I like is when we talk about the African Book Festival, we just don't leave it like that. We choose every year a different host from a different African country because we want to show diversity, the sheer riches that this continent possesses. And we are just at the beginning. And for this year, we chose a specific creative mind, a creator literally who handpicked the finest. In fact, His Excellency done a great job to mention all the finest authors who came today. So I would like to have the honor to call Lidudumalingani, our creator of this year's festival. I am so excited. I can't wait till he arrives here. Literally not. And he likes to keep me waiting. There he is, Lidudu!
Hello. Good evening. Feeling a little bit overwhelmed, but I want to start by thanking every single one of you for being here today. It's been very long months of planning and stressing, so to see all of you here is incredibly amazing for us, and thank you. Good evening, everyone, Your Excellencies, dear Margaret Busby, dear to the writers that are here, to the moderators, to the readers, and the booksellers. It is heartwarming to have all of you here, to finally meet in person after long months of back and forth emails. We can now finally hug passionately and speak at the top of our voices and not be restrained by emails' unspoken decorum of greetings, how are you? To begin, to keep it in the spirit of this year's theme, I'd like to use someone else's words to say what I want to say. In a short video on YouTube for the MacArthur Genius Award, the American cultural theorist, poet, and scholar Fred Morton says, "The idea of soul authorship is nothing but a con." This year's festival, titled Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow, explores the historical text that births writers, the turmoil and beauty from which the beautiful literature stems from, and the future worlds that writers are conjuring up on the page. At the center of this year's festival is lineage. At the center of this year's festival is lineage, in art and in history. Writing is a solitary pursuit, but no writer writes alone at their desk. In that moment, the writer is multiple of everything they are, of everything they have read. Every writer's hand is held by another writer, and this is what is at the center of this festival. All of the panels over the next 2 days return to this brutal and poetic lineage. This is what we're here to do. We're here to listen to texts and conversations. We're here to listen to histories and conversations. We're also here as African writers to insert ourselves into the German literature bookshelves. When we are long gone and we're no longer physically here, we like to remain in the buying consciousness of the German reader. We want our books and authors to be considered equally with literatures from elsewhere in the world, and not as an afterthought. But that's not all. Writers and readers are people who laugh and dance. And I have always gone to book festivals and get upset that we are only allowed to talk and not laugh and dance. And so During this festival, tonight you will get to see some comedy. And tomorrow night you will get to dance with Bot, a South African beautiful musician who's here. I am in every way confident that the authors, the poets, the artists that are taking part in this year's festival make my personal dream list. So this is a dream for me, to have all of these writers, over 30 authors are here, over 120 titles are here, and many prize winners. And so I am super, super happy. There is, however, the lingering, exhausting politics of visas with international traveling for African citizens, specifically for black bodies, in which we are made to feel inhuman and not worthy of moving around the world, unpoliced by old and new laws. And this issue, and the festival has not been spared from this issue. We have lost fellow writers who couldn't come because of these visa regulations, and I'd like to acknowledge them. They're not here, but I know that their hearts are here with us. I know that Stephanie and Kala and the team worked around the clock to try and find every loophole they can find, and I want to thank them for that. My own presence here was, until the very last moment, uncertain. And so when I say that it is my pleasure to be here to see you all, I mean it. I want to thank Stephanie, Kala, Venice, and the rest of the team for their tireless work, for putting together what I think is going to be an incredible weekend. I know that it's been challenging. The issue of the venue has come up, which I am completely trying to wrap my head around, how a thing like that happens. And so I want a round of applause, I beg, for the team at the festival. I also want to thank the over 70 volunteers that are helping us, making sure that authors and readers are taken care of, and that we all know where to be and how to get there. I want to thank the most wonderful ambassador, Alexandra, for the work that she's doing for the festival. And if you have been following the festival, she has been moderating talks before the festival. I want to thank her for that. For the next part, I don't know how to go about it, because I don't know if I have the words to introduce the headliner for this festival. Her life, her work, her influence cannot be summed up in words, at least not the words that I know. I first met Margaret Busby in 2016 in Oxford during the Kind Prize Award night. We sat on the same table that evening. I don't remember much from that encounter, but I remember Margaret's warmth and willingness to chat away to me when she didn't know who I was. It is an honor that you accepted my invite, and that in that first email I sent to you, you immediately remembered meeting me in 2016. It says everything about the person you are and the work that you do. So I just got the bio off the website because I couldn't write it myself. There's so much to go through. So this is the bio. Margaret Busby is a major cultural figure around the world. Born in Ghana and educated in the UK, she became Britain's youngest and first black woman publisher when she co-founded Allison and Busby in the 1960s. She's a writer, an editor, a broadcaster, and a literary critic. She has jazzed numerous literary awards, including the Booker Prize, so that's a big deal. She's the editor of the groundbreaking international anthologies of women writing of African descent. Daughters of Africa, which came out in 1992, and New Daughters of Africa, which came out in 2019. I'd like to say that Margaret Busby will be in conversation tomorrow at 2 p.m. with Dr. Antwi-Boasiako, who's a South African poet, writer, researcher, and teacher whose PhD focused on Black women historiography, intellectual history, and life writing. So that's going to be amazing. I'd like to ask you to please help me welcome the 2023 headline act, the magnificent Margaret Busby.
Wow. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie, Carla, the Berlin African Book Festival team, Lidudumalingani for inviting me, and I really am not sure why I'm here, but I'm here. There's too many people to thank, but I just like to repeat all the thanks that everybody else has given this evening, and I'll do my best to stumble through the words I've written. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Words and language and writing and storytelling are the means by which we hold on to memories that might otherwise be lost. Today, you are the future that the child you once were started to become. As I look back, my life journey seems inseparable from writing, books, and publishing. I took a path of self-education as well as formal education, drawn early towards words on paper, often stories and poems I composed myself. Neither of my parents would have thought of themselves as literary, yet the inadvertent archivist in both of them has meant that I still have access to precious handwritten letters that they kept. Many people from an African and Caribbean background similar to my parents hold to the belief that education paves the route for a fortunate child to enter a solid profession such as law or medicine. And my father did indeed qualify as a doctor along the scholarship route, and my mother, her hard-earned nursing training aligned well with that when they married. The books that first made my acquaintance might well have been medical volumes, in which I marveled at the colored diagrams and vivid biological illustrations. But very early on, I was aware of British imperial publishers such as Thomas Nelson and Sons, who produced somewhat banal primers that I read. Although I certainly did not know exactly what publishing was, I connected with the printed page. I certainly did not always know exactly what publishing was, and whether books, and I connected with the printed page, whether books, magazines, periodicals, even the labels on the bottles of medicine that my father had in his dispensary. My parents sacrificed in many ways to ensure that my siblings and I had the best education they could afford. Nor were they ever disparaging about my liking for things artistic, musical, and literary, in preference to the scientific subjects that would have guaranteed me more lucrative options. It was at boarding school in England that I first was able to envisage myself growing up to be an African woman in the British world of books. I never tire of crediting South African Noni Jabavu with providing me with much inspiration to pursue that ambition when I saw a photograph of her gracing the cover of a journal called Donna London's Weekly while still in my early teens at school. How could I not take courage from a black African female writer, journalist, literary editor in 1960s Britain? Passing the requisite exams, I headed to London University's Bedford College to study English literature, and wasted no time before I graduated aged 20 and straight away joined forces with a young English friend to co-found a publishing company in the late 1960s. And no one tried to dissuade me from my maverick leanings towards a career about which I knew nothing and yet was determined to follow, regardless of lacking experience in whatever I was doing or finance. So that is how I earned the description that now is so often tagged to me of having been the UK's then youngest and first black African woman publisher. So let's talk about yesterday. It was in an era when African literature, and literature from the Caribbean too, was mainly rooted in all things colonial. When the publishing companies, Heinemann, Macmillan, Longman, Nelson, produced textbook-type material bound for the export market rather than for consumption in the British trade market. My father lived most of his life in Ghana, but was from the Caribbean. His earliest days steeped in appreciation of the British way of life, an age of empire. In Trinidad, where he grew up, he'd been bright enough to gain entry to Queen's Royal College, the island's prestigious secondary school, staffed by Oxbridge masters. A contemporary of his and lifelong friend was the historian and political philosopher C.L.R. James, who in his famous 1963 memoir, Beyond the Boundary, wrote tellingly of the expectations that West Indian schoolboys there imbibed in their diet of British culture. He said, "It was only long years after that I understood the limitation on spirit, vision, and self-respect which was imposed on us by the fact that our masters, our curriculum, our code of morals, everything began from the basis that Britain was the source of all light and leading. And our business was to admire, wonder, imitate, learn. Our criterion of success was to have succeeded in approaching that distant ideal. To attain it was, of course, impossible. Both masters and boys accepted it as the very nature of things. It was the beacon that beckoned us on." Also, as Ngugi wa Thiong'o said of his Kenyan colonial schooling, "The language of my education was no longer the language of my culture." Maybe it's hardly surprising, therefore, that throughout my otherwise exemplary British education, nothing in school or university brought me into contact with a single book by an African or by anyone else who was not an acknowledged representative of European civilization. As far as the syllabus was concerned, and thank goodness it's no longer that case, there were just no black writers. It amounted to an erasure of my identity. There was absolutely no acknowledgement of how my presence and history connected with everything else I'd been taught over the years. To try to reclaim that connection, I sought out all the texts I could find that made any reference to Africa or to African peoples. Happening upon the African Writers series published by Heinemann Educational Books in the 1960s was life-changing. To read writers such as Chinua Achebe and Flora Nwapa was to locate the missing pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. I also discovered an occasional anthology of writing by Black Americans, of American Negro poetry, such as the volume entitled Beyond the Blues, edited by Dr. Rosie E. Poole. And from then on, my personal library swelled daily with volumes that positively affirmed my identity in an environment where I was often the only black person of color, or the only black person or person of color in the surroundings. So knowing no better, I became a publisher, one step at a time. The simplest definition of publishing is to make something publicly known. That being the case, it matters not only what is being made public, but who is deciding that it should be made public, and why. The ability to disseminate information, as well as to consume information, is empowering. That's why it's important to be concerned about being excluded from playing our full part in the whole process of publishing. Unless we are there, we relinquish all control. The history of publishing achievements in Britain contains crucial examples from an African perspective that still have resonance. Exciting as new ventures are, it's important to remember and build on what has gone before, if only so as not to keep reinventing the wheel. Phyllis Wheatley, born in West Africa, transported aged 7 or 8 to North America, bought by a Bostonian family, became in her early 20s, the first African-American author of a published work of poetry, published in London in 1773. In 1789, Olaudah Equiano published his autobiography, The Interesting Narrative of the Life of Olaudah Equiano, or Gustavus Vassa the African, written by himself, in which he gives a dramatic account of being stolen from Africa aged 11, shipped to the West Indies, taken to Virginia, and sold to a British Navy lieutenant, then back to bondage in the West Indies, where he used his entrepreneurial skills to amass enough money to buy his freedom in 1766. He eventually settled in London, where he more or less self-published his autobiography, retaining the copyright, a risky and unusual move, apparently, when most books didn't make it into a second edition, and putting together a list of well-connected and influential subscribers who agreed to buy copies. The book was submitted to Parliament as documentary evidence when the bill for the abolition of the slave trade was being debated in 1792. It's likely the Equiano's book inspired Frederick Douglass, renowned African-American abolitionist and writer, to publish his Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, written by himself in 1881. Since the 19th century, Africans in Britain have spoken for themselves through print. Robert Wedderburn, born in 1762 in Jamaica, a former captive who turned to publishing after gaining his freedom, came to Britain in 1778 and produced an anti-slavery paper in 1817, A Forlorn Hope, a call to the supine to rouse from indolence and assert public rights. In the first edition, he argued that the journal would establish something in the shape of a free press. He was tried for his edition in 1820, and with many working-class radicals, spent time in prison for challenging the ideas of the ruling class. In October 1901, Henry Sylvester Williams, a main organizer of the first Pan-African conference held in London in 1900, at which my maternal grandfather was a delegate while he was studying at Gray's Inn, he published the short-lived Pan-African Journal. As he stated in the first issue, it was designed to spread information concerning the interests of the African and his descendants in the British Empire, and to be the mouthpiece of the millions of Africans and their descendants. Declaring that nothing is known of the educated British Negro, the editorial in the first issue expressed the conviction that no other but a Negro can represent the Negro. The African Times and Orient Review, founded in London in 1912 by Duse Muhammad Ali, was interested in Pan-Africanism and Pan-Asianism. Published until 1918, covering art, literature, politics, and commerce, it demonstrated that black people having their own press was an essential precondition to freedom. In the 1930s, Marcus Garvey was living in London, editing his journal, The Black Man. In that same decade, The Keys, journal of activist Harold Moody's League of Colored People, counted C.L.R. James and Una Martin among its associates. In October 1945, the 5th Pan-African Congress was held in Manchester in England, stimulating a new monthly, Pan-Africa, edited by the Guyanese T. Ras McConnell. In 1958, Claudia Jones founded Britain's first black weekly newspaper, the West Indian Gazette, and within 2 years, the paper had a circulation of 15,000. It ceased publication in 1964, soon after she died. President Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, speaking in 1964 at the first editorial meeting of the Encyclopedia Africana project founded by Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, stressed the necessity of writing about Africa from the point of view of Africans, from the point of view of African interests and African assumptions and concepts, and not from the point of view of Europeans or others who have quite different interests, assumptions, and concepts, whether conscious or unconscious. Sylvester Williams had said much the same 60 years earlier, and it remains true. In 1966, New Beacon Books was founded in London by John LaRose and Sarah White. It was the first Caribbean publishing house in England, named after the 1930s Trinidad journal, The Beacon. New Beacon also became a bookshop, and the George Padmore Institute, an archival resource, was set up later in the same building. Then, in 1967, Allison and Busby, the company I co-founded with Clive Allison, began our hand-to-mouth publishing, producing work that was being ignored by other publishers. The first A&B titles were cheap paperbacks, poetry books, because we believed passionately that literature should be affordable. And our first novel, which had been turned down by scores of publishers on both sides of the Atlantic, was Sam Greenley's The Spook Who Sat by the Door. It went on to great success, was translated into several languages, was made into a cult film, and more than 50 years later, still remains relevant. It was a no-brainer that as a publisher, I wanted black writers to be strongly represented, unapologetically taking their place on our international list, and often prize-winning list. C.L.R. James, Buche Mateta, Chester Himes, Rosa Gee, George Lamming, Roy Heath, Ishmael Reed, John Edgar Wideman, Nuruddin Farah, and many others. Around the same time, there was a man called G.K. Osei, who was both author and publisher, and a classic example of a radical black publisher in Britain. One of his books, The African, His Antecedents, His Genius, and His Destiny, 1967, boasted a biographical note reading in part, Osei has traveled extensively in West Africa, North Africa, and Europe. He speaks German, French, Spanish, and English. He has over 2,600 books in his library. Osei has not received any money from anyone. He has financed all his publications, 11 in number, from his own pocket. Now, that's what I call an independent publisher. In 1968, Logo Louverture, founded by Jessica and Eric Huntley, began with the 1969 publication of historian Walter Rodney's The Groundings with My Brothers, financed by friends and community funds. And they went on to publish Rodney's landmark title, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, and many other key authors from Africa and the Caribbean. and also opened a bookshop in 1974, renamed the Walter Rodney Bookshop after Rodney's assassination in 1980. In 1970, Arif Ali's Hansib publications were started, and the following year launched the West Indian Digest, as well as publishing other newspapers and periodicals, including the Caribbean Times, Asian Times, and other related publications, becoming probably the largest successful black publisher in Europe. Among other enterprising black ventures were Glenn Thompson's Writers and Readers Publishing Cooperative in 1974, Black Ink, founded in 1978, was the collective that ran for 10 years, developing the work of young black writers through workshops. In the late 1970s, Amon Sabasakana's Karnak House came on the scene, Akira Press, co-founded by poet Desmond Johnson in 1983, the Maverick Frank John, Arawidi, Yvonne Collymore and Jocelyn Barrow, multiracial children's books, Seed, Inky Fingers, Bus Johnson's Carrier Books, which in 1984 produced a landmark book of Claudia Jones's writing, I Think of My Mother, Notes on the Life and Times of Claudia Jones. Wasafiri magazine, founded by Sushila Nasta in 1984, was long Britain's only magazine to provide serious critical coverage and exposure of Black, British, Asian, African, Caribbean, and other international writing, locating it at the center of British literary heritage, not on the margins. And many other periodicals deserve mention: Art Rage, The Black Liberator, Frontline, Race Today. A collaboration between Bogaluvature, New Beacon, and the Race Today collective brought about the iconic International Book Fair of Radical Black and Third World Books, which was held in London between 1982 and 1995. In 1987, the Black women's collectives Zora Press and Black Woman Talk published their first titles, and in 1987, Tamarind Books, founded by Verna Wilkins, began to change the face of British children's book publishing by literally putting black children in the picture. In the 1990s came The Express, started in 1992 by Dotun Adebayo and Steve Pope, reaching new markets with their popular paperbacks. 1992 was also the year that my anthology, Daughters of Africa, came out, typifying yet another sort of publishing. In compiling it, I wanted to rectify the then frequent perception that there were only just a handful of black women writers worthy of attention, invariably African American, recent discoveries. I aim to showcase the work of women of African descent from around the world over the centuries, proving that there's always been literary talent that was black and female from Africa, despite habitual exclusion and silencing and invisibility. I found space for more than 200 women, and a huge bibliographical section at the back, this was pre-internet, was an indication of how many more there could have been in the book. In the quarter century since then, there have been. So coming back to why I ended up in publishing myself, Toni Morrison once said, "I really think the range of emotions and perceptions I have had access to as a black person and a female person are greater than those of people who are neither. My world did not shrink because I was a black female writer, it just got bigger." Equally significant as Morrison's fiction is her non-fiction, particularly a 1992 collection of essays, Playing in the Dark, in which she brilliantly analyzes identity in the American literary imagination from the perspective both of a writer and a reader. The ability of writers to imagine what is not the self, to familiarize the strange and mystify the familiar, is the test of their power. The languages they use and the social and historical context to which those languages signify are indirect and direct revelations of the power and its limitations. Sensitive to the knowledge that cultural identities are formed and informed by a nation's literature, and having examined the assumption that traditional canonical American literature is free of, uninformed, and unshaped by the 400-year-old presence of first Africans and then African Americans in the United States, she makes an observation that is both simple and profound. As a writer reading, I came to realize the obvious. The subject of the dream is the dreamer. As a black woman editor in the UK, I saw no role models. And so in the 1970s, I was delighted to meet and be able to compare notes with Toni Morrison, then a senior editor with Random House, responsible for nurturing an impressive roster of talent, while continuing to produce brilliant novels of her own. That admirable quality to combine creative writing while facilitating editorially the literary produce of others was shared by a rare few literary pioneers, exemplified by Nigeria's Flora Nwapa and Ghana's Efwa Sutherland, or by Alice Walker and Ishmael Reed in the United States. And I was equally delighted to meet years later in London Ella Alfrey and Ella Wakatama and Elise Dilsworth, working with mainstream publishers, though since both moving on to independent careers. Certainly there's a desperate need to keep replenishing the pool, and there's also a need for variety. Coming more up to date, we must acknowledge the drive of Charmaine Lovegrove of Dialogue, Valerie Brandes of Jacaranda, and Bibi Bakari Yusuf of Kasawa Republic Press, and Ni Aikwe Parks of Flipped Eye provide exemplary models of excellence. We know that being black and African is not something monolithic or that requires a label. Any focus on autonomous black African publishing takes nothing away from the courageous independents. Among them, Canongate Books and One World, that have pursued policies of inclusivity because they come naturally and are the right thing to do, and not a knee-jerk response to anything that's happened in the last couple of years. So I know I haven't got much time left, so I'll skip a lot of what I was going to say, and maybe I'll find somewhere to put it later. But I'll just finish by saying that August is Women's Month in South Africa. The 26th of August is Women's Equality Day in the US. And yesterday, 25th of August, marked the publication of Hamish Hamilton, by Hamish Hamilton, of a new paperback edition of my anthology, New Daughters of Africa, first published by Myriad Editions in 2019, commissioned by visionary publisher Canada Lacey, who 30 years earlier had commissioned Daughters of Africa. In addition to being a fabulous storehouse of writings by another completely different 200 women of African descent, born from the 1790s to the 1990s, New Daughters of Africa, through the generosity of its contributors in waiving fees, enabled an award for a woman student from Africa to have a free course of study at London University's School of Oriental and African Studies, creating a legacy to support the next generation of African female writers. In fact, there's a website if anyone wants to contribute to that. The inaugural recipient of that award 2 years ago was Idza Luhumyo from Kenya, who has already made great strides in delivering on that promise by being the 2022 winner of the Kane Prize for African Writing. And as you've heard, I first and last met Lidudumalingani, creator of this year's Berlin African Book Festival, when he won the Kane Prize in 2016. So here's to yesterday, today, tomorrow. Long live the future. Oh, I have to sit down now.
Not free yet. I'll get another microphone and then Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the slight delay, but the stage and the labyrinth to find it. My name is Venice. I'm one of the organizers of the African Book Festival. I'm a bookseller and a publisher at InterKontinental. And I have the great honor to be talking to Margaret Busby for a little bit. So maybe you can take this time out of the evening to include some of the words that you now just had to cut. I just want to also state that the Daughters of Africa anthology and New Daughters of Africa anthology are milestones. They are very impressive proof of the creativity of African women and women of African descent through the centuries, across generations, across geography, across genre, from different languages, and I like to call them the Bible. And I was always wondering, how did you go about compiling the texts? I mean, you already mentioned you went through archives, especially for the Daughters of Africa anthology pre-internet. How was the process? How did you find the texts? How did the texts find you? How did you decide what stays?
It's a good question, a big question. Well, Daughters of Africa, well, people always used to ask me, because it was over 1,000 pages long, they'd ask me how long it took me to compile it, and I'd say it either took me 18 months or all my life. Because as I said, I have a lot of books, and I had been collecting books and magazines and journals for a long time, until the opportunity came up when I was asked to compile an anthology by Candice Lacey, who then was working with a feminist company called Pandora. And the book actually came out from Jonathan Cape, but Candida had moved there, so I followed her. So I just went to my bookshelves, I found things, I put the thing together, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was published. And I just wanted to get away from the fact that there were only usually half a dozen names that people were talking about in the 80s, in terms of women of African descent as writers. You know, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, the names that were good and brilliant, and they are in that anthology. But I want to say, well, there are many others who you may not have heard of because they haven't been given the attention they deserve. So it was really a fairly, if you like, haphazard way of putting it together, because I could have made it 10 times the size, but obviously I had to stop sooner or later. So that was how the first one came about. Now, New Daughters of Africa came about in a completely different way, because the first book had gone out of print, and we couldn't bring it back into print without paying a lot of permission fees to agents and publishers and people, and we couldn't afford it. It was just not, it didn't make sense at that point. So we thought, well, let's try and do something that still has a legacy, but is really up to the contributors to help along the way. So I had an endless list of people I wanted to include in it. And I had a lot of email addresses. I found a lot of email addresses that I didn't have. Other people helped me find how to contact people. And I wrote to everybody saying, would you like to be in this anthology? And we wanted to have some sort of legacy which will benefit the next generation or people coming after you. So unfortunately, we can't afford to pay a lot of money. And so all the contributors waived their fees. And that is how it came about. And so I spent maybe a year emailing people, toing and froing, and they'd send something, and I'd say, well, can we edit it a bit? And so there's a lot of that, a lot of chasing people, a lot of people who missed the deadline, people whose email were not right. It was just an organic way, and I could do another anthology the same size tomorrow, because it wasn't to say these are the only people who deserve attention, but just to say here are another 2 brilliant women of African descent who have done enough work for you to be able to read and enjoy what they've written. So that was, am I making sense?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that next book. Very much looking forward to the even newer Daughters of Africa.
Well,
I was also wondering how you came across the texts that were written in languages other than English. How do you find those writers?
Well, obviously there are writers in translation in the anthology, and we had, sometimes people suggested people to me, sometimes there were things that were already translated, so they came that route. In the first edition, for example, my brother, who actually spent 10 years in Germany, did a lot of the German translation. In the second volume, my sister, who used to live in Côte d'Ivoire, did a lot of French translations. So, and there were other friends who were writers who made suggestions, and I followed them up. So it was really a collaborative venture all along the way.
And back when you were compiling the first anthology, what kind of obstacles did you face? I mean, you mentioned fees for agents concerning a new or the republished version of that book, but was that also an issue when you first published it?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, if you write to an agent or a publisher and you say, we'd like to use a piece of writing by this writer, and they come back and say, well, actually, we want £1 million for it. Then you've got to decide, well, do I go for that? It might be a brilliant writer, or do I say, well, I'll have 100 writers for the same amount of money? So there's a lot of juggling and toing and froing and negotiation to try and make sure we didn't exclude people because their representatives were trying too hard to get them the best possible deal. And sometimes people just said, I want to be in it, whatever it costs, without the cost. So it was a balancing act. But it's obviously, you want to make sure that writers get their due and are paid properly. But there were writers who just wanted to be part of that sisterhood. So it was lovely to find those.
Yes, and sisterhood is a good buzzword, actually, because there are a lot of ties also between the first collection and the second one, familial ties, but also writers who have influenced each other. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, as you say, there are ties. It's a bit, in a way, like that image of passing the baton or links in the chain. And there are writers who are connected in terms of relationship. And for example, in the first volume, I had Alice Walker. In the second volume, there's her daughter, Rebecca Walker, who's also a writer. And so there were connections like that. There were writers in the second volume who would be influenced by writers in the first volume. Audre Lorde is the name that comes up quite often, and people who have been influenced by her writing. She was in the first volume. And there are writers such as Antwi-Boasiako, writer, who sadly died just before we published The New Daughters. So she references her connections with Audre Lorde. And there are writers within the volume who are connected. For example, I have Zadie Smith in New Daughters, but also Zadie Smith's mother, Yvonne Bailey Smith, who, having had a career as a therapist, has turned to writing, had her first novel out this year. And so both Zadie and her mother, Yvonne Bailey Smith, are in New Daughters of Africa. So Yvonne's following in her daughter's footsteps.
As one of the pioneers of publishing Black writers in the UK, what advice would you give us, Stephanie, Carla, and me, as emerging publishers here? Is there any wisdom that you can bestow on us?
I think the point is that if the people choosing the list come from a rich, well, I don't really like that word diversity, but I mean, if there's a spread of views of whether it's age, ethnicity, gender, whatever, then you will get a richer possibility of what the titles are taken on. So that what you don't want is a monolithic thing, so that the only sorts of books you get are because the publishing company is from one perspective. So I think it's just a question of being open. And as Toni Morrison said, it's a question of making literature richer for everybody. So that comes from embracing as wide a possible source of creativity, whether it's, and to find that source of those creative sources, you need to have people who know where to look. So if I only know where to look here, then I'll only find things here where I might miss things over there. So you need to just believe in the possibility of finding important, interesting, enriching work from new places. So it's hard to give advice apart from do the right thing.
Thank you. And since today's, or the topic of the festival is yesterday, today, tomorrow, I was wondering what kind of changes and developments you have seen in the publishing industry in your time, how you currently see it, and what kinds of hopes and visions you have for the future.
Well, things have obviously changed since I started out. I mean, there was no internet, for example. There were no mobile phones. But there are so many new initiatives that are encouraging, enlightening. I mean, brittle paper, wonderful.
Aini Idoro is sitting right there,
paper,
founder and editor-in-chief.
I was reading it even before I met her, so it's not... And there are other things. There's James Morua's literature blog and Galdem. There are a lot of things that have been made possible because of the internet and new technology, which I think are encouraging. It's a possibility. It gives people possibilities to spread the word. Though I have to caution, it's not just because you can access the internet and put anything out there that makes it worth reading. You have to strive for excellence. So, you can enjoy being a writer, but you have to try and be as good a writer as you can. So there are things that are possible now that weren't possible when I started out because of technology, but I think also people have to see that publishing, as I said, I used to say publishing, if you just photocopied something and handed it out on the street, you were a publisher. Well, that was true then. Now you can be a publisher just by going on the internet. So there are encouraging things, and there are things to watch out for in terms of excellence, in terms of quality, but there are many more opportunities. And I think the fact that there have been so many people who've gone before you that you can see as models or see what they did right or what they did wrong will always be a help. So that it's not just that when I started I knew everything. I didn't know anything. But what I know now, I'm happy to pass on to anybody else. So, I think that will be true of anybody who's in the industry who has seen the developments and wants to see things go even further.
One of our projects, one of InterKontinental's projects, is also the New Daughters of Africa podcast. So if you want to continue listening to Margaret, the first episode is an interview with her. The podcast is hosted by Panashe Chigumadzi, who is also one of the writers published in the New Daughters of Africa anthology. And every episode is an interview with another daughter. And yes, so you can go listen to that podcast. You find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts. And Margaret has also mentioned the new edition of the New Daughters of Africa, which is available outside. And remember, as she informed us, it is also an effort in women writers, black women writers, uplifting one another. So every copy bought also contributes to the education of one more new daughter of Africa. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you, Margaret.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to use this one because I felt like it looks very professional. So, yes, I learned too. Thank you so much, Margaret Busby. Thank you so much for this keynote. Thank you, Venice, for having this conversation. I learned a lot of things, and it still makes me so happy, makes my eyes shine, because you help me, you help a lot of other women, people to, imagine, widen their imagination. So thank you so much for that with New Daughters of Africa, and thank you all for being part and contributing to all this. As you said as well, Bristol is here as well, and it's like, wow, back then when I walked at this airport and had this one book, and now, see this, now I know I can't read all books that have been written by Black people, and that fills me with joy. Also sadness, because I can't read so fast. So, there has been a lot of thank you that has been said, so I want to keep it short. Thank you to all the sponsors, to all who helped to make this financially also possible, because nevertheless, such a festival is a powerful financial challenge, not one that we cannot overcome, but it needs to be acknowledged. Yes. Thank you so much for the partners as well that collaborated in all possible ways. And then I would also like to mention what is coming after this, more formal part. I'm so happy to announce my two sisters, Thelma Buabeng and Celina Bostic. They are going to have, it will be such a comedial highlight. Your stomachs, in German you would say, it will be like a massage for das Zwerchfell. So, in fact, you better get yourself some drinks, be ready, get your mobiles, then you hashtag Thelma Buabeng, and you hashtag Celina Bostic. Yes, because she will not tell you anything from the horse. So stay tuned, get your tickets. That will happen after this. So, also, to everyone that I did not mention personally, but my deepest thank you on behalf of the entire team. We do not actually possess the right word to express our gratitude. So thank you to all of you. And I would now like to call the writers, the creators on the stage. Please hurry, so that we can take a lovely picture all together. Everybody, please come on stage, strike a pose, and then we have an amazing picture, amazing memory. Yes, oh wait, my documents. Whilst the stage is being prepped, and whilst it will take a little bit of time, I would like to mention what is coming on Saturday and Sunday. So we have a lot of book specials. For instance, Black Ass by Igoni Barrett. Or we have Man in the Mirror. That will be a panel talk with Max Luby, JJ Bola, Maneo Mohale. So please, in fact, go on the website, check out the programs. We have a lot of highlights and goodies. There will be writers that you have already heard of, and there will be writers of whom you have not heard of. And then you'll see writers that will talk with each other, connect, crack jokes. So please, it will be epic, as I like to say. Feel free to join. You can get a 2-day pass. In the front, you can still buy some, so please all join. And tell your friends and neighbors, are you coming? So great, so great, so great. Please feel free to step a little bit further so the audience can see you. There's no need to be shy, or is there a reason to be shy? Yes, that's the spirit. Woo! Very well.
And Alexandra, where are you hiding?
You're right.
Oh my God, I can't even touch him.
Ja, das hat nicht geklappt.
Now. Okay. Thank you for tonight. The night is not over yet, but we need to clear the room for the next event in order to have a short sound check. So I would like to ask you all to please get up for 5-10 minutes and then come back in for the next event.
Seid ihr gut drauf? Wie ist die Stimmung? Ja? Okay, lasst mal eure Hände sehen. Okay, sie sind heiß. Sie sind heiß. Ich sehe es schon. Cool. Was ist mit Klatschen? Warte mal. Geil, ich komme mir vor wie so eine Animationsfrau auf so einer, weiß ich nicht, AIDA oder so. Ist cool. Ich möchte, dass ihr jetzt gleich weiter klatscht. Und zwar noch lauter und doller für Gladys Müller von Tell Me Nothing from the House.
Praise you all, my sisters and brothers. Please put your hands together for my sister Celina Bostic. Lower the music, please. Lower the music. People want to listen to my voice. What's this? Lower the music. So nice to be here today. My name is Gladys Müller. I'm a preaching woman from Meckenheim, Bonn. So happy to be here today and so happy to have this wonderful woman by my side. Some of you don't know, but 2 years ago, this woman was a sinner. She was a sinner. What you were? Don't you remember?
No, what did I do?
Look at you. Have you forgotten already? But now she's a Christian. She's even writing Christian songs. She prays. Do you pray? Celina.
I will come to that later.
You pray, don't you? In the morning when you wake up, before you have some lunch, dinner, breakfast, before you go to bed, you pray, don't you? All of you, don't you? Amen. 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 So good. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, we had another show and she was lost. Lost in this Berlin thing, you know. All of you, I know, half of you are stoned right now. Don't laugh. You, don't laugh. I know, you are stoned right now. Everybody's high on something here in Berlin. Shame on all of you. Shame on all of you. Celina too, I don't even know, you were high on something. She didn't believe in God. She didn't know how to pray, nothing. But now, you are by my side. You are by my side, so...
I am by your side, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
and
true.
now you're improving. Yes. You're improving. Okay. So good.
Okay.
So good. People, I'm so happy to be here today. Let me come closer. Let me come closer to you. I'm coming. I'm coming. Don't worry. Here I am. I'm coming. So, we're here because we want to talk about books, right? About books. So, do we have authors in the audience who has written a book? Put your hands up. Oh, my sister. Over there. My beautiful sister. Look at you. What's wrong with you?
Show yourself.
Show yourself. Stand up. You are an author. Are you, what's your name?
Sarah.
Are you a Christian?
No.
Excuse me?
Yes.
You are a Christian. You see? I can make people become a Christian in seconds. Seconds. Remember where they come from. I'm not finished. Stand up. So, what is your book about?
Where's my what?
Your book. The book. You're an author, right?
Why we matter.
Why we matter. A book about us, black people and everything. That's beautiful. Is it also about God?
Maybe kind of.
What do you mean kind of? Is it about God or not? There's nothing to decide. It's not about God.
It's not about God.
Why?
why we met her.
I understood that. We all understood that. It's because why we met her. But do you know the reason you are able to write books like this is because of whom? Because of the Lord. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. I'm going to pray for you. Is anybody else here written a book? Oh, beautiful. What's your name, please?
Fred Kumalo.
Fred?
Kumalo.
Kumalo. Where are you from?
South Africa.
South Africa. Hey. Beautiful. What is your book about?
The title is 2 Tons of Fun. So it's self-explanatory.
It's about fun. What is wrong with you people? Huh? Fun. Fun. The only thing you people think about in Berlin is fun. Berghain, Sisyphus, all these clubs and everything. Fun. That's what your book is about fun.
Yes, and I'm also a Catholic Christian.
Amen. Amen. Are you sure you're a Christian?
That's why my full name is Frederick.
Frederick, a Christian name.
Yes, that's a German Christian name.
Okay, stand up, please. If you're really a Christian, pray for us.
Hey.
Okay, sit down, please. What was this?
I was not expecting that.
Was he speaking in tongues already? Was he speaking? This was the South African language. Sounded beautiful. I don't know what you said, but I don't know. Suspicious. Any other authors here among us? Where? I'm coming.
Come into the light.
I'm coming. Okay, please, brother. We can't see you. Go over there, please. Go over there. I'm going to sit next to you. A good-looking man like you. Let me sit next to you. So, what's your name?
JJ.
JJ. Clap your hands for JJ. JJ, you're an author. Where are you from?
I'm from Congo by London.
Congo?
Via London.
Okay, nice. And what is your book about?
My book is called Mask Off or Zykan Man. It's about masculinity, so being a man and Petra.
So we have books about why we matter. It's about me. We have another book about fun. And now you even dare, in these times, write a book about masculinity. About being a man. Hey? That's what your book is about. So what does it mean? What does it mean to be a man nowadays? Tell me. 2 sentences.
2 sentences.
Or 3.
You know what? I'll get you a copy of the book.
I want to hear it right now. What are you talking about in the book?
I'm just talking about allowing us as men the opportunity to express ourselves freely beyond the limitations that we experience in society.
Woo! I think that's pretty nice. What do you think, Gladys?
Sounded interesting. Sounded like, like, you know, a lot of sentences which sound good in the first time, but I don't know. Do you know what it's about? It's about man. The whole, you know, the way we're living right now, it's about man. Now he's writing a book about masculinity and how man feel. Who cares? Oh. So, seriously, good luck with your book and everything. You're good looking. That's enough. So, I'm coming back, Celina.
Yes, please.
I'm coming. Celina, what about you? Do you write diary or something? Do you do something?
Yeah, I do sometimes. I mean, I write songs.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
You do write songs?
I do.
She does. She writes beautiful songs.
Thank you.
But now I have the feeling after all this, we need a little prayer.
Why do we need prayer? That was really important topics.
I know, but I told you. Me. God is the topic I want to talk about. That's why I want you to close your eyes. Close your eyes. And this is a song written by myself. The Lord is my Savior. The Lord is who I trust in. The Lord is my Savior. The Lord, oh Lord, sing with me. The Lord is my Savior. The Lord is who I trust in. The Lord is my Savior. The Lord, oh Lord. Can you feel it? Do you feel the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost in the room right now? Huh? I want to hear a yeah. Do you feel it, the power of the Lord? The power of Gladys, huh? Can you feel it? I'm sweating so much. What about you? It is so hot in here.
Does somebody have a towel for this wonderful lady?
Thank you.
A tissue? Something. I mean, you're
something.
filming her all the time, yeah? She needs to look good too.
Thank you so much, beautiful girl. Oh. Okay.
But what were we going to talk about?
Do you know what I wanted to talk about?
What?
Ukraine.
Getting serious
Ukraine.
now. Okay.
Say it with me. One more time. I'm seeing only black people doing this right now. I can teach you white people, no problem. Like this. Do you know why I'm saying that right now? Because there's a new word I learned called Willkommenskultur. Willkommenskultur, which I love. It's so good that they are taking so good care of the Ukrainian people coming from war. That's how everyone should be treated, right?
Yes.
Isn't that the way everyone should be treated?
Yes.
But I have this organization, you know, this Black Woman Matters organization where I'm in. It's founded by a really beautiful girl. She's pretty, single, nobody knows why. And she and a lot of other groups were helping them to help black and other foreigners who were studying or living in Ukraine to come to Germany. Because why? Because even during war times, people have time for what? For racism.
Yes.
Even during wartime, people have time for racism. I just spoke to a beautiful black girl who was studying in the Ukraine. She was pregnant. And she told me she wanted to get on a bus, pregnant. And another mother who was carrying her child kicked her out of the bus. Is this normal? Is this normal? No, it isn't. So what I'm trying to say is the Willkommenskultur. You know, where you say everyone is allowed to come here, have a good apartment or Asylantenheim or something where they can stay. They can have a SIM card for their phones. They can have a ticket for the train, which is perfect, it's nice, but that should be for everyone.
Yes.
It should be for everyone. I know that a lot of people didn't even know where the Ukraine is before the war started. Don't pretend you did. Eh? You didn't even know where it is. Now when I go to the Sparkasse and I want to get some money, they say, can you spend €1 for the Ukraine? When I buy something at PayPal, they ask me, can I spend €1 for the Ukraine? Everywhere I go, they want me to spend, which I do, because I'm a Christian woman. I don't mind. I do. But I have the feeling, like 2014 and 15, when other refugees were on their way to come here, what did they do? They went on the street every Monday to protest against them. Is this normal? No, it isn't.
No.
It isn't. That's how the whole Pegida started, and then IFD and everything. And now they are rolling out red carpets and putting roses on top of them, and then carrying them over and saying, here, this is your hotel room, first class, oh, no problem, you need a ticket. Which is fine, don't get me wrong. But this should apply for every human being. Don't make any differences.
Woo! That's right.
What do you say, Celina?
I totally agree. And they should be allowed to work here too, like the Ukrainian refugees.
Exactly, amen. Amen. And do you know what? This situation is good to make a shout out at organizations like EOTO, Each One Teach One. Put your hands together for them. Organizations like ISD, Initiative Schwarze Menschen in Deutschland. Yeah. And this wonderful group, Black Women Matter.
Founded by Thelma Buabeng, who can't be with us here tonight, but maybe we have a special guest.
The one who's single, right?
Yes, the one who's single. I don't know.
For whatever reason.
I don't know why.
Okay. The good thing, I told you before, the good thing is this pretty woman here next to me, she's become religious. She has been, why are you looking like this?
What did I do?
Do you think I can't see you? Huh? I know you're religious. Don't be ashamed to tell people. Don't be ashamed to tell people that you pray. Now she has some religious songs also. And she brought one for us. So, Celina, hit it.
Okay. Das ist jetzt ein Song von mir. Er heißt sehr passend Religion.
Amen.
Und dafür brauche ich aber eure Mithilfe. Habt ihr Lust? Ich habe Lust auf so einen 250-Menschen-Chor. Kriegen wir es hin? Sehr gut. Und zwar geht euer Part so. Ist ein bisschen kompliziert, aber das kriegen wir hin. Oh, 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 oh. Und jetzt ihr. Wenn dieser Part kommt, möchte ich, dass ihr die Augen schließt und so tut, als wärt ihr auf einem Beyoncé-Konzert oder...
Or in church.
Or in church, natürlich. Udo Lindenberg, was weiß ich. You know. Und die Arme hoch macht und so macht. Genau. Packt die Handylichter aus oder die Feuerzeuge oder was auch immer. Und ihr habt auch schon 3-4 Bier-Intros, okay? Gut.
At least.
Nein. At least. Ich dachte, religious, no alcohol.
No, but look at them.
Okay. Wir kriegen das schon hin. Hier ist Religion. Du machst immer, was du sollst, hast davon die Nase voll. Dieses Fließbandleben kann nicht alles sein. Du träumst davon, durchzudrehen, einmal nackt im Regen stehen. Glaub mir, du bist nicht allein. Lass uns wieder wie Kinder sein. Ich glaub an den Moment. Das ist meine Religion. An wahre Freundschaft und an ein Leben vor dem Tod. Ja, bald ist es vorbei. Es geht schneller als man denkt. Mach dir eine schöne Zeit. Jeder Tag ist ein Geschenk. Tanze auf der Straße, als wärst du allein zu Haus. Lade deine Feinde ein zur Kissenschlacht. bring jemand zum Lachen bei einem Leichenschmaus. Lass dir nicht erzählen, dass man so etwas nicht macht. Oh, lass dir nicht erzählen, dass man so etwas nicht macht. Ich glaub an den Moment, das ist meine Religion, an wahre Freundschaft und an ein Leben vor dem Tod. Bald ist es vorbei, es geht schneller als man denkt. Mach dir eine schöne Zeit, gleich seid ihr dran. Jeder Tag ist ein Geschenk. Oh, wo sind die Hände, Leute? Oh, jawohl! Oh, nochmal! Oh, 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 heute lass ich die Arbeit sein, lad all meine Freunde ein und der Festsaal Kreuzberg wird zum Paradies. Keiner denkt dran abzuhauen, singen bis zum Morgengrauen, obwohl es gar kein Morgen gibt. Es gibt nur den Moment, das ist meine Religion. Es gibt viel Liebe und dieses Leben vor dem Tod. Bald ist es vorbei. Es geht schneller als man denkt. Mach dir eine schöne Zeit. Jeder Tag ist ein Geschenk. Oh, 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 oh. Bald ist es vorbei. Es kommt so anders, als man denkt. Doch heute habt ihr uns einen schönen Tag geschenkt. Hey! Dankeschön. Vielen Dank.
Celina, it was a beautiful song. First of all, it was a beautiful song.
Thank you.
But it wasn't religious at all.
Well,
did you sing Ein Leben vor dem Tod or something?
Yes.
Why?
Dass
Why
man
is it
das Leben
always
auch vor dem Tod genießen kann und nicht erst danach.
If you were really Christian like you pretended to be, you would sing a song about paradise, the life after, not before. Huh?
Why
What
are
is
you
wrong with
screaming at me always?
Because you tricked me. This song is also, like I said, it's about me, how I feel, and living for the Tod. Why is it also always like this with you people? Huh? Why is it this Berlin, this city, is the West? It's the West. Who is on wheat right now? Put up your hands. Hey, you're even putting up your hands. I know that some of you have taken wheat, coke, alcohol, MDMA, ketamine, or whatever the name is. Pills. I know all of you. You are high right now. Look at me. Look how he's looking at me right now. Look at me. High. Huh? Brothers, what about you? Are you high on something? Just beer. That's how it starts. Huh? And you over there, do you think because you're wearing a mask, I don't see your face? Huh? Do you think you can cover your drug face in front of me just because you're wearing a mask? Huh? And you, do you think I don't see you over here? I see you. You with the barfoos here in front. That's the hippie life. Barfoos, smoking weed, being high all day. I know.
It's hot in here, Gladys. Come on. Cut him some slack.
So, because it's hot, they should be high.
No,
That's
but
what
they
you're
can
saying.
take off their clothes. Or maybe their socks.
Do you want them to take off? What is wrong with you? This is not a swinger party.
What?
Huh? We are doing church here right now. I don't want anyone to take off their clothes. Stop it.
So you think everybody should, you know.
Celina.
What?
The thing is, what you don't understand is I'm trying to help you.
Help me?
Yes, because just imagine you find your way to God. If you find a way to God, one day, if you're lucky, you're going to find a good-looking black man on your side.
I already have a man.
You do?
I do. I'm married.
You're married! Oh, I didn't know. She's married.
You know, don't have to clap for that. It's nothing special.
So, is your husband a good-looking black man with muscles and an oily skin and who knows how to cook fufu and shake his booty, huh? Is he a good-looking black man, huh? Tell me, tell us.
He cannot dance for 5 cents. He's a white man, I'm sorry.
You are with a white man?
Yes, we have 2 kids.
You have 2 kids?
Yes.
You even produce 2 kids?
Sorry.
Huh?
Yeah.
You're with a white man. Don't you like black man?
I do, but it was love at first sight. What can I say?
When does this happen, love at first sight? You tell me, when does this happen, love at... Is there anyone who says they have love at first sight? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Celina, I don't know. I'm not saying you shouldn't be with a white man. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you should also look at your options.
Wait a minute. You are together with Gunther, a white man, aren't you? Isn't that true?
We are not talking about me tonight.
Hold on. No. Don't change this up. You. And you always treat him, you lock him up in the basement.
He is lost. The man is old. He's 82. He pees in his pants. I had to lock him up. I'm trying to protect Gunther.
That is not right.
Didn't you see him up there? Didn't you see Gunther up there? Yeah.
Hi, Gunther.
Go back. I told you not to come here. Go away. You see? He's crazy. He's senile and everything. I'm trying to protect him. And you know what? Let me tell you something. When I came to Germany, I was longing for a black man. Oh, I went to all these clubs, Surprise, Yam, was there, do my thing, Mecklenburg, all the clubs, Bad Godesberg. I went to all the places. Bad Godesberg, exactly my sister. I went there. She knows. And you know what I saw? All my brothers were with white women. They didn't want me. They didn't. I was really longing for a black man. Oh, I tried, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a black man. I wanted a black man to love me.
Okay. Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
I wanted a black man to love me. I wanted a black man to hold me. But they didn't. They didn't. You didn't.
Okay, but it's time.
Shame on you.
I think it's time we did something happier, okay, Gladys? You ranting. Ich glaube, es ist jetzt mal ein bisschen Zeit für ein bisschen gute Laune. Oder nicht?
Are you calling me a black woman aggressive?
No, I would never do that. Never in my life.
Okay. Light-skinned lady.
True. But I think it's time. It's time. It's time you lighten up.
I don't plan to.
She don't plan to. But why not? Gladys, come on, yeah. Time you gave it up.
I don't plan to.
She don't plan to. Schade eigentlich. But why?
No. Listen. The reason why I took Gunther is because he was kind and soft and loving in the beginning, Okay, he was old already, but he was giving me more love and protection, and, he was like fighting for me and everything. That's why I was blind that time, and I got and married him, and now, you know what? Excuse me? Is this a black man shouting for me over there? Eh? Brother, see you later. Eh? See you later. I don't see you properly, but I'm going to find you with a hat. I wanted a black man to love me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a black man to hold me. But they didn't. You didn't. You didn't.
Shame on you.
Ah. I wanted a black man to cook for me.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted a black man to please me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm stuck with Kunta. With Kunta. With Kunta.
Oh, Gladys. Time to lighten up.
I don't plan to.
She don't plan to. Why not? Gladys, come on, yeah. Time you gave it up.
I don't plan to.
Oh, man. She don't plan to. But Gladys, you know what you're supposed to do. What we're supposed to do.
What are we supposed to do?
You gotta pray for our black brothers.
Amen.
So that pray for each other. So that we can discover the beauty in each other. Gotta pray for our black brothers. In the name of the Heavenly Father. Kick unter to the gutter.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Amen. And time to
Now I plan to.
Okay. Now she plans to. Isn't that a good idea?
That is such a good idea.
Kicking Gunther to the gutter.
Kick
Time
him to the gutter.
gave it up.
Bye bye, Gunther. It is
Now
over.
you plan
You're
to.
already, Gunther. Bye bye, Gunther.
Now she plans to.
Now I plan to. Now
Okay.
I plan to.
Okay, everybody. When we sing, time to lighten up. You guys sing. Yes, we plan to. When we sing, time you gave it up. Then you sing. Yes, we plan to. Can you do that? Time to lighten up. And you sing.
Yes, we plan to.
And we sing. Time you gave it up. Come on, y'all.
Yes, we plan to.
Gladys.
Time to find me a black man.
Woo! Yes, we plan to.
Time to get me some loving.
Woo! Yes, we plan to.
Time to find someone to cook me some fufu.
Yes, we plan to.
Time for some jollof rice and chicken.
Yes, we plan to.
Time for a black man with a big, big, big heart.
Yes, we plan to.
Time for some loving for Gladys.
Yes, we plan to.
Time for a black man for Celina.
Yes, we plan to.
I'm coming down there. Continue.
Time for something else?
I'm coming.
Time for Gladys to come down. Yes, we plan to.
Continue. We plan to.
Yes, we plan to.
Kick Gunther in the gutter. Kick Gunther in the gutter. Continue.
Yes, we plan to.
Beautiful lady. Are you married? Is he white or black?
White. Yes, we plan to.
Beautiful sister. Are you married? Are you married?
Yes, we.
Yes. Is he black or white? White. Okay. What about you, sister?
I'm married.
Do you have a boyfriend? You are lying. You are afraid, huh? They are all afraid. Now suddenly everyone is going to be single here. I can see through you. I'm coming. Other side. What about you? Over there, pretty lady. What about you? Are you married?
Not yet.
But are you in a relationship? Color of his skin. This one. This one. Amen. Praise the Lord. There's a lot of work to do in Berlin. Oh. Sister, what about you? Are you married?
I was.
You were. Oh, I'm sorry. Was he white, black? Mixed? You don't want to tell me. He wasn't either of them. Where did he come from?
From Berlin.
From Berlin. Wow, that's really suspicious. What kind of an answer is this? You don't want to tell me, huh? Okay, I'm asking your sister right next to you. Huh? Married sister?
I am.
Is he white or black?
He's white.
Lord. Lord. You know, I need to tell you something. I don't have anything against interracial relationships. I love him. I'm in one. You know now. Gunter and me and everything. But you know what happened recently? I was talking to a brother. Do you know what he said? Because he's been dating white women all the time. And you know what he dared to tell me into my face? He told me that he's interested in white women, but if he dates a black woman, she has to be really, really pretty. That's what he said into my face. So what I'm trying to tell you right now is not love whoever you want, be with whomever you want, but don't forget your sisters. Don't forget your beautiful sisters left and right to you.
Yes.
Don't forget your sisters. They're just here right in front of you.
Yes.
Especially the dark-skinned.
Yes.
Especially the dark-skinned. Single. You know? Especially them. What do you say about this, Celina?
I think they're 100% right.
Are we?
Yes.
Good. So nice. So nice. One more. Okay.
That's it. That's the end of the song.
What is up next, my love?
Next up is, I think this is it. White tears.
Do you know, my best friend is called Renate. She's really nice, my best white friend. You know, I live in a village somewhere, don't have many people, so Renate sometimes she come and we go for walking. You know, walking with the sticks, you know that one. Walking. Sometimes she brings kartoffelsalat. Sometimes I bring some jollof. We eat together, we talk about all kinds of things. Most of the time, I have to say, I complain about Gunter. She complains about her marriage and all these things. Nowadays, she was sitting in front of me and suddenly she was like, Gladys, I've been reading some books about you black people and what is happening right now since Black Lives Matter in Germany, you know? Since 2 years, Black Lives Matter in Germany, 2 years now. So she was telling me and starting to ask me strange questions like, wie fühlst du dich in der weißen Mehrheitsgesellschaft? And I was like, what does she mean, weiße Mehrheitsgesellschaft? I've never heard this word in my life before. I had to Google it. And I was like, weiße Mehrheitsgesellschaft. Normally we talk about kartoffelsalat and going walking. And then this woman is standing in front of me and she started to cry. She says, she's so sad for me and for all the things we've been doing and white people. And hey, and I was like, seriously, our tears haven't dried even. After all this we've been through, now she wants me to dry her tears. Say it with me. Zoek den Fehler. Hä? Zoek den Fehler. Sometimes I speak German. Huh? What does she mean? Talking to me, and she says she read this book about our beautiful sisters, Alice Hastas and Tupoka, and she's been reading up, and she calls herself Vogue now. Vogue, she knows everything. And then I have to say, she was like, we have to be patient. And I said, sister, after 400 years, you still want us to be patient? After all these years, you are still asking me to be patient before you understand what we've been going through? I can't. Have you made the experience, Celina?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah, what happens to you?
Well, a friend said she hopes I don't become bitter.
Wow, you don't become bitter?
Me, yeah.
Okay.
She hopes I don't become bitter. And another friend said, what did she say? I don't remember.
Vogue.
No, I remember now.
What did she say?
She said, if she hurts me and she didn't do it on purpose, then I should just let it go because she's still learning. Ooh. Which actually means if someone steps on your foot and it hurts a lot, it should not hurt. Just let it go. Like that.
Just let it go. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't plan to. Huh? That's not going to happen. Yeah. What we are trying to tell you right now is read up, become Vogue, read everything, go to the internet, educate yourself about racism, about all the new begriffen we have right now. But you shouldn't be crying more than we do. I have people sitting in front of me crying like they've been through, I don't even know what. And I'm like, whoa. One of my friends even told me, she was talking about men and everything. And I was like, have you ever been with a black man? She said, no, for den hab ich Angst. I said, hey. And then she realized what she said, and then she started crying. She started crying. After insulting me, she started crying. And I was like, yo, sister, I don't think this is going to happen right now. You should be apologizing to me instead of crying and asking me to take care of you right now, right? Mm-hmm. So people, I want to ask you, the audience, are there words you know which have been like repeated in the last 2 years? Like diversität. Huh? Tell me, what word do you know?
That you can't hear anymore, right?
Words you can't hear anymore. Or even if you can hear them, like, it's been like these words in my, it exists like for 2 years only. Some words I've never heard so often before. Are there words, what kind of words do you hear? Kulturelle Aneignung.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Another one. Decolonize? Decolonize.
Okay. Kulturelle Aneignung.
Decolonize. Another word.
Ich finde woke.
Vogue.
Yeah.
Diversität.
That's enough.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is I have a loop station down here. I'm just going to freestyle a little beat with those words. Okay? Here we go. Kulturelle Aneignung, ne?
Ja.
Kulturelle Aneignung, no. Kulturelle Aneignung, no. Kulturelle Aneignung. Everybody thinks they're woke. No. Kulturelle Aneignung. Everybody thinks they're woke. No. Kulturelle Aneignung. Everybody thinks they're woke. No. Was war noch? Everybody thinks they're woke. Diversität. Kulturelle Aneignung. Everybody thinks they're woke. No. Kulturelle Aneignung. Everybody thinks they're woke. No. Was war noch? Es war noch ein Wort. Decolonize. Everybody thinks they're woke. Everybody thinks they're woke. Okay, we need a clap on that one. Decolonize your mind. Stand up, everybody. Decolonize your mind. Decolonize your Decolonize your mind. Decolonize your mind. Everyone wanna be woke now, yeah. Okay. Dankeschön. Vielen Dank. 1, 2, 3, and we're out. Dankeschön. Thank you.
My love, you haven't been drinking at all, please.
Thank you so
Drink.
much, Gladys. Thank you. Woo.
This was great. This was great.
The crowd is nice too, though. Give yourself an applause. What a wonderful crowd.
I have to say, you are really, really, really amazing. Really, really amazing. Really, I have to say. Do you know why I'm so happy about this African Book Festival? Because you all remember the disaster at Frankfurter Buchmesse?
Yes, we do.
We all remember, Frankfurter Buchmesse. And I know some people will be like, yeah, but they've been inviting Nazis forever. So where's the problem? Why are we complaining now? Because it's about time. That's the reason.
Yep.
Because it's about time. And if a black woman says she's not coming to the Frankfurter Buchmesse because she is afraid of the Nazis, what should they do? She should tell the Nazis not to come. Because, to be honest, a Nazi bringing a book to the Buchmesse, what is the book about? About Nazi stuff, isn't it? Who wants to read a book about Nazi stuff? Huh? And which black person wants to stand next to a book written by Nazis? So, and if you know, remember what happened? Even apart from all our sisters who said, we're not going to the Buchmesse, we're not coming, we're boycotting it, they didn't disinvite the Nazis, they were allowed to stay. But they gave a Freedom's Prize to a black woman.
Yes, they did.
This is a paradox, right? Other black people are afraid to come, like really afraid. One of them, Yasmina Kunke, one of them, she says she's been threatened by Nazis. That's the reason she's not coming. In her real life, she's been threatened by Nazis. They know where she lives. They've been following her and everything. She doesn't want to come to the Buchmesse. Do something. What do?
They say it's Meinungsfreiheit.
We should have added Meinungsfreiheit to the song.
Yes, we should.
Meinungsfreiheit.
Yeah.
Is racism a Meinung?
No, it is not.
Racism is not an opinion. Repeat it with me. Racism is not an opinion.
Yep.
That is crazy. It's crazy. That's why I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be here tonight with all the brother. Hey, brother, with the book. What are you doing with your phone? Are you sending me a message? Your wife? Ah, okay. Your wife.
She's black,
okay.
though.
Happy for you. Okay. Where's the other one? We had people with the books here. So that's why important you are here. Where's the other one? The other brother with the book. They left. That's important. Why it's important you, authors, all those who are here, you now, sister over there. and all the others. That's why it's important to be here, to tell our own stories from our perspective, to make it bigger.
Yes.
You know? This is a festival. This is the beginning, a weekend. But what I want to see in the next years is our own book fair in Germany.
Yes.
With Black and BPOCs, you know? Telling our own stories. That is so important because we don't need people to tell our stories for us anymore. We don't need any white saviorism anymore. Enough.
Yes.
Enough. And I have the feeling that nowadays, first, we've been screaming and shouting for so many years. People are saying, now we are loud. No, that's not true. We've been loud for years. You didn't listen. The problem is you didn't listen. Since Black Lives Matter in Germany, since 2 years, now everybody's listening. And that's good. That's good you are listening. But it's only baby steps we are taking right now. There's so much more to do. There is so much more to do. And being loud, saying what you think, you know, being proud of yourself. Celina wrote a beautiful song about it. Celina wrote a beautiful song about this. And I can't wait to hear her perform. Celina.
Ich schau in den Spiegel und will jemand anders sein. Ich bin ein braves Kind, warum bin ich ganz allein? Ich bin doch so klein, warum fall ich trotzdem auf? Ich fühl mich so unwohl in meiner Haut. So lange leise, so lange leise, so lange leise, so lange leise. Solange ich den Spiegel meide, kann ich mein Licht nicht sehen. Ich such mir falsche Freunde, Freunde, die nichts verstehen. Ich lach bei Witzen mit, die auf meine Kosten gehen. Senke den Blick, schlucke die Tränen. Ich war so lange leise, ich war Betonung auf war. Beiße mir auf die Zunge, obwohl mir nach Schreien ist. Ich war so lange leise, aber ich bleib es nicht. Jetzt sag ich, was ich fühle, weil ich weiß, dass ich muss. Sing mir den Kloß aus dem Hals, werf mir den Stein von der Brust. Schaue in den Spiegel, was ich sehe ist wunderschön. Ich weiß, warum ich schreibe und für wen. Kann euch nicht schützen, ich kann euch bloß zeigen. Wir haben eine Stimme, wir müssen nicht schweigen. Wir waren so lange leise, wir waren so lange leise, waren so lang wir waren so lange leise, wir waren so lange leise. Oh, wir sind nie wieder leise. Könnt ihr das mit mir singen? Wir sind nie wieder leise. Wir sind nie wieder leise. Wir sind nie wieder leise. Alle, wir sind nie wieder leise. Wir sind nie wieder leise. Wir müssen alle laut sein, wenn wir Ungerechtigkeiten sehen. Wir sind nie wieder leise. Ich muss euch alle hören. Wir sind nie wieder leise. 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 Nie wieder leise. Nie wieder. Wir sind nie wieder leise. 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 wieder leise.
Celina Bostic!
Vielen Dank!
Celina Bostic! Celina Bostic!
Dankeschön!
Gladys had to take care of her husband. Gunther ist irgendwie umgekippt oder so, sorry, deswegen bin ich jetzt kurz auf die Bühne gekommen. Stehen bleiben bitte, stehen bleiben. Gebt ihr uns den letzten Song? Oder, Moment, wir haben eine Choreo dazu.
Ich kenne sie noch nicht, aber okay.
Ist nicht so schwer. Ihr habt nicht so viel Platz, aber nehmt euch den Raum, den ihr braucht, da kommt ihr nach vorne. Und zwar geht es nach rechts, links, nach hinten und Kick. Nach rechts, nach links, nach hinten und Kick. Nach rechts, nach links, links nach hinten und Kick it. Okay, habt ihr jetzt, ne? Hit it!
Ich geh mit Grace, let me swag, baby, vanish. Touchdown in the city, I panic, yo. Outfits in my fresh on the baddest.
Ich hab in dem Musikvideo mitgetanzt.
Musst du Schokolade, Willy Wonka. Kein Champagner.
Aisha Vibes, Finesse.
Wenn ich drop,
Freestyle,
sie alle Banger. Denn sie lieben meinen Rap und mein Gesang, ja. Ich catch a plane, keine Gefühle. My life is great, das ist jede Bühne. High energy, ich bin nie müde. My legacy, voller Liebe. No excuses, mach mein Ding exclusive. Weil ich nicht wie all die anderen klingen. Ring. Anfragen, Stacks in den DMs. Weil mich alle lieben, ja.
Rechts, links nach hinten und Kick. Nach rechts, links nach hinten und Kick. Nach rechts,
And I've been living fast life, but I see it
nach
too
links,
slow.
links nach hinten.
And you see my lifestyle, I got G's in the top.
Freestyle.
See many people there outside with the feet man so boo.
Freestyle.
Oh no, and me a stand the defender like Joseph Yobo. A girl say she want Netflix and chill, so I just get if I want it.
Let's get this
If you
party
fall
going.
in love, Kelly Satin.
Shake your
You go
booties.
to breakfast, I'm not capping.
Shake 'em.
Can you see dripple, I'm not
Shake
catching. I'm not faking this,
Christiane,
no
come in front of
fugazi.
here.
You see
Emmett.
these feelings, I'm not
Sabi,
catching.
come.
I'm a quest and feet, I just want it.
Finesse. If I broke, now my business. I'm a shiny old bride, oh. Full of care for the night, oh. Finesse. If I broke, now my business. I'm a shiny old bride, oh. Full of care for the night, oh.
Yo, finesse, been blessed, impressed, Mindset, yo, life in the flesh, Panther, gieß jede Sprosse, die wächst, sprieß aus dem Grund, so wie deutsches Gesetz, ja. Dodges beleidigt, ich halt mich bedeckt, Interview nicht jetzt, Digga, bleib weg, sie reden doch, ich bin nicht impressed, mein Leben, no, none of your business, ja, ich hab euch alle auf dem Ticker,
Könnt ihr noch, ne?
Turn mit deiner Klicker und wir alle sammeln Vibes so wie Sticker. Ey, Boyo, komm her, wir kochen Dinner. Chop, die Uhr crack im Hinterzimmer. African, bang die Drum bei Gewitter. DJ run die Tune and pull it up like a zipper.
If I broke, now my business. Freestyle. Geh nochmal runter. Freestyle. Lauter die Musik. Hey. Hey.
Komm hier mal, Lovely.
Zugabe! Können wir dir noch einen Song geben? Moment! Willst du noch was singen? Okay, überredet. Schatz, aber ich kann nur Text, aber du musst das machen.
Wir müssen den zusammen machen.
So fängt's an. Oder wir lassen's. Ach, ja, du kannst ja deinen Text.
Nee, ich kann den nicht.
Achso. Kannst du was anderes singen?
Nee, egal.
Mach mal die, du hast doch früher mit der Loop-Station mal so ein Freestyle gemacht.
Oh Gott.
Kommt was. Beruhigt euch.
Okay, das Mikro ist aus, ne? Kann es sein? Egal, dann mache ich es mit dem Mikro. Also es gibt, oh Gott, es gibt einen Song, mal gucken, ob ich das hinkriege. Ich habe mal so ein Hip-Hop-Medley gemacht mit der Loop-Station und es ist jetzt einfach ein Experiment. Siehst du, das war nicht das Richtige. Nochmal.
Kein Problem, Schatz, take your time.
Okay, warte.
Get your freak on. Get your freak on. Get your freak on. Get your freak on.
Thelma.
Get your freak on.
Get your freak on. Get your freak on. Get your freak on. Get your freak on. Get your freak on. Get your freak on. Get your freak on, baby. Okay, jetzt hab ich's.
Boom, boom. 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 Boom, boom.
Here I come. You can't hide. Gotta find you and take it slowly. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you and make you want me. You can't run away from these stars I got, oh baby. Hey baby, 'cause I got a lot, oh yeah. And anywhere you go, my whole crew's gonna know, oh baby. Hey baby, 'cause und dann hab ich keine Ahnung, was sie sagt. Ba, ba, ba. Ba, ba. tut's weh. Die um die Häuser ziehst, im Sommer tust du gut und im Winter tut's weh. Die lieben Job, wenn wir um die Häuser ziehen. Dankeschön! Vielen Dank! Vielen Dank, das war's von uns. Thelma Buabeng!
Und Celina Bostic!
Tell us nothing from the Horst. Dankeschön.